I've just won CEO of the Year 2025. I run a company which is a business transformation called Shine London. I've been back in the UK for 2 years now. Before then, I was living in Thailand in North Chiang Mai as a monk.
We're going to have to start with that.
I went to a normal school, I did fairly shit, and I knew at 10 years old that I knew I was going to join the army. I left the army and then I worked for McKinsey's in the city. I did that for a long time before I kind of got tempted into being a millionaire by shares, which was the first UK.com to go bust, which was a big learning curve. I lost everything. We had a partner that kind of got very ill. I had a little penthouse place just in Epping. The following week, I'm in my mum and dad's spare room rather than a Ford Fiesta. I just literally lost everything and had to start again, you know. At that time, I felt very much drowning. The cracks were starting to show and we were getting really tight on the money, like really, really tight on the money. I thought, this is bad. I'm done. I'm just so done now. I went home and I didn't leave the house for 62 days. I then found this thing called monastery, which was an international ordination program. It'll teach you to meditate. You can be in the jungle for 30 days in Thailand, in the north of Thailand, with some of the best meditation monks in the world. That's for me. I'm in Chiang Mai for 3 days and I run out of money. Get taken 6 hours right up into the jungles, right in the north of Thailand. Most of the time I think I spent crying my eyes out, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome. And they take you out of the temple and then you're robed in the saffron and you become a monk.
What's next for you then?
What's next? To go back to something that I love doing. So I was a PT in the army, so I decided to become a PTI. In the October of last year, I had a massive stroke. I'm now on the road to recovery from a stroke.
A lot of our listeners are young entrepreneurs. What would be your leaving message to them?
Don't be a dick, and please, the only way to real long success is, and then you can then take over the world.
Glenn, tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you?
I'm Glenn. I'm 53. I'm just
Date
one
profile.
Say again. Yeah, my day profile. Up, swipe to left. I've just won CEO of the Year 2025. I run a company which is a business transformation called Shine London. I've been back in the UK for 2 years now. Before then, I was living in Thailand in North Chiang Mai as a monk.
We're going to have to start with that.
Well, you go right the way
I feel
back
like we
to
should start from the beginning.
Beginning.
Yeah.
Right, so I was born on the 20th of September at 15, 13. So left school, I don't have one of these rags to rich stories. I don't have one of these. I was, fed on gruel and kept in a cage. I had a really good childhood. I had both my parents were police officers, worked really hard. We used to live on a police council estate or a police estate. I went to a normal school. I did fairly shit. And I knew at 10 years old, so I'm going back to 1982 was when the Falklands was on, that I knew I was going to join the army. And I left school at 15 years old and I joined the parachute regiment, which was a bit of a shock. Because there's me with a proper normal lifestyle and there's other guys from Glasgow with parents as drug dealers and stuff like that. And it was a bit of a learning curve. Yeah, for sure. And I quickly kind of realised that I didn't really fit in, I guess, in some ways. I loved the physical aspect of it. And I left the army. I did actually I got married and got divorced and left the army. And then I worked for McKinsey's in the city around the dot-com boom. So I was one of the youngest guys in the office as a management consultant, learning my craft. And .com was kind of the thing that was going on with people, getting stupid valuations and millionaires overnight and everything. And they kept kicking me out and, being the guy that was trying to get the valuations up and being the sort of cool hip guy, really, I guess, for McKinsey's. And I did that for a long time before I kind of got tempted into being a millionaire by shares on a new startup, which was the first UK.com to go bust.
Oh, wow.
Which was a big learning curve, I then left there and I started my sort of own entrepreneurial journey, which ended in my second company. I lost everything. We had a partner that kind of got very ill and the estate pulled the accounts back through and I was totally naive, really.
What was the business doing?
Recruitment. We were doing IT recruitment for investment banks.
It's quite lucrative recruitment.
Right.
No, a lot of people in recruitment.
27, I was driving a 911.
Yeah.
I was doing all right for myself. And then I remember literally, I think I was on a Tuesday, I was driving the 911 and I had my own place. I had a little penthouse place just in Epping. And then the following week, I'm in my mum and dad's spare room driving a Ford Fiesta. I just literally lost everything and had to start again, which was quite the start.
Did you see that like coming at the time that it did it? Or did it just spiral really quickly, or like?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was cash flow for us. We were paying contractors back then. We were paying contractors $2,000 a week. We were charging Deutsche Bank someone like $3,000 a week per contractor. We were on weekly payroll with the contractors. I'm meant to be on 30 days with Deutsche Bank, and they'd take 90 days. You're running those, and we had over 100 contractors out at one time. So cash flow was mega. My partner that I had at the time, he was a wealthy business guy, and he got very sick. And his estate and his wife just said, "We're not doing this," and just pulled the funding for us.
Was that because like he was majority shareholder?
No, we were 50-50, but I just think I was too busy kind of involved in running the business, and I kind of offloaded sort of the planning of the business was to him.
Accounts and stuff.
And I kind of just, I guess in some ways, trusted. He was a family friend, and so you kind of just had that automatic trust that person's going to deliver what they were supposed to deliver. You don't, at that age, you just keep on going, don't you?
Head down,
make
money,
partying hard, being in the city all the time, doing deals all day long, every day, and you just don't really. I didn't really see the growth, I knew that we were doing okay. I know we could do, take more and more people on. We're getting a good brand and a good name out there, but then it literally turned within. I didn't really realise, I guess, the rot that had set in terms of where we were going with things. But yeah, that was the first one. The first sort of bankruptcy and start again. This little red Ford Fiesta and away I go. And then I went back to work and sort of like normal work, if you like.
Back to the corporate world.
And I worked for Coca-Cola, which was fantastic for, fast-moving consumer goods in terms of marketing. I worked at the distribution centres, and so I learnt about distribution, which comes quite prevalent in a minute. And I'd always been quite entrepreneurial. I had little side hustles there. I had a graphic design business, and I had a sign business on the back end and stuff. And then I worked kind of getting more into business, I guess consultancy, but more business development. So sales, I guess, as we call it now. And I started doing really well with that and getting called into companies and having a look at their, what we now call outbound sales process. So on how we market, how the sales team interact with the customers, the marketing teams. And then I started a business from, would you believe it, tattoo removal. There was I went down to have a tattoo removed in Harley Street.
Yeah.
Machines were massive, like 160 kilos of weight. And I thought, actually, there's probably a business here. Rather than me coming to London to have a tattoo removed, why can't someone with a machine go to a customer or, a location? And so...
Oh, but the machines were
160 kilos in weight.
Oh,
they were massive.
wow.
So I thought, well, there must be a way. And I remembered, funnily enough, when I was at McKinsey, one of the early projects I did was I got involved on the sort of real side cusp of how to cool the London Underground. And so we were using things called ground source heat pumps and heat exchangers on how to pass cold water and hot water and how that exchange then makes things cool. So I thought, well, there must be a way that we can make these things smaller. We'll just put a heat exchanger in the back of it. So a long time, which was about 2 years of kind of me with napkin drawings of what I would think a machine could look like and understanding the industry a lot more and understanding about lasers. I got on a plane to China, to Beijing, and I'd had 60 companies that I wanted to go and see in 2 weeks. Landed there thinking, oh, Christ almighty, I've never been to anywhere like this before. I remember I wrote to the Department of Trade and said, can I have a grant? And I completely got ignored. So I literally paid for my own ticket. I made these contacts. And the day before I landed the day on Welcome Monday, for example, and I think my factory's tours were starting on a Wednesday. And I went and saw the Great Wall of China on the Tuesday. And while I was there, this young Chinese woman came up to me and said hi in like perfect English and said, do you want a guide? And I was like, yeah, okay. So she guided me around the Great Wall of China. So at the end of the day, I said, what are you doing tomorrow? And she said, well, what do you need? And I said, could you come and be my translator for these meetings? And she went, yeah, I guess.
Oh.
And she came with me to the factories. There was a lot of talking in Chinese going on that I didn't really know what was going on. And she'd sort of look at me and go like this, or she'd go, so I kind of knew where it was going. And I thought, well, again, how much trust you put in these people. We went for dinner after about a week, and she sort of helped me kind of divide up and see where these companies were going to help us. And they were all making printed circuit boards. That was their thing. And we went to a couple of companies that were making lasers for an Israeli company. And I approached them and said, look, can you make what I've designed? And they turned around and said, yeah, we can make it. So I flew home and kept in touch with Lynn, as her name was. And she helped a huge amount, really, you know. And in the end, we got a phone call to say that Lynn had said the machine's sitting in my apartment. It's here.
Quick pause from the podcast to give a special shout out to one of our sponsors, the Rejuvenation Doctors. The Rejuvenation Doctors is a hair transplant clinic in the northwest of England in Bury, owned by Dr. Jamie. Now, I can personally vouch for these guys, as I myself around 2 months ago had a hair transplant from Dr. Jamie, and I can't wait to see the growth in the next 3 to 6 months. The service was amazing. It was very VIP. He looked after me throughout, and he made a very uncomfortable experience extremely comfortable and caring. Now, boys, if your hairline's going back, if you're receding, if you've got that McDonald's hairline, do not wait until it's too late. Message Dr. Jamie today at the Rejuvenation Doctors. His tags are in the link to the description of this podcast, and he will sort out your hairline just the same as he's sorting out mine.
How much did it weigh?
23 kilos.
Wow.
It was literally about the size of it looked like a massive toaster or an air fryer, like a double size of an air fryer. And I thought, right, we've now got to get it approved to use in the UK. And so we had to go through TS and GSU approval in Germany. And the approval, there's 64 checks that they do. And they start at number 1 and they go all the way through. So even if you fail number 1 and number 2, they keep going all the way through. And it's a whole day of testing. So we're sitting there and I thought, this thing's not going to pass. There's just no way. And it passed.
Oh, wow.
And it came.
You think there's one thing that's going to fail?
We thought one thing it's going to literally fail on, and it passed. And it came to the UK. So I thought, right, I've got this tattoo removal machine. I was fairly heavily tattooed, not as heavily tattooed as I am now at the time. And I went to the London Tattoo Convention with a girlfriend at the time, and I got her basically to wear stockings and suspenders and not a lot else, and a T-shirt that said, erase my tattoo. And I bought the domain name, erasemytattoo.com, and I had 1,000 flyers. And illegally, we walked around the tattoo convention in London, handing out these flyers to people. The downside, it's a Hell's Angels show, so we knew we were going to get kicked out. And then from the back of there, I got my first 3 tattoo studios that I went and worked out of. So I'd drive there, I then set up, people came in, and we did split commissions with the owners.
Oh, wow.
The great thing was every 4 weeks you needed to go back and redo the tattoo. So in the end, it got crazy busy that I actually started to drive from Glasgow and drove all the way down. It took me 5 days to drive down to London, and then I'd go back up and do it again, and I'd do it again, and I'd do it again.
Oh, wow.
And
So
then,
is that the plan, to do it yourself?
no, I didn't really have a plan. I just thought this is a great idea, you know?
I was thinking you were going to sell them to...
Yeah, sell the...
Well, stupidly, unbeknownst to me, someone said, actually, can I buy one of these? Because I'm losing a lot of money. You know, you're taking the lion's share. I was taking 70%, they were taking 30%. And I went, yeah, of course you can buy one. We'd only ever had one. So it's back on the phone to China.
How much it cost to produce?
At the time, I think the first one cost me about 40 grand.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I mean, it was mum and dad's
Still a pretty penny.
It was mum and dad's savings. It was credit cards maxed out. It was everything. But I remember I turned over 147,000 in my first year. So I was like, okay, this works.
Yeah.
So we ordered another one. And the guy said, well, I don't know how to use it. I said, well, I'll teach you. So I wrote a training manual for it, and then I wrote a training system for it. And then the penny clicked to me. I thought, actually, this is where the money's at. This is where I need to manufacture these. And then he started on his. 2 weeks later, his machine blew up.
Oh, no way.
I thought, I don't believe this. I had to order another one. And so what he actually paid me for it was just eating into profit. And we then had this problem whereby they were going wrong all the time. I literally had a little warehouse full of broken machines. Back on the plane to China. So this is about 6-7 months.
But yours
now.
one was okay.
My one was golden. I don't know what everyone else was doing with theirs. Mine never broke down. Yeah, we've gone through lots of variations, and we actually called the machine the R16, and that was the letter designate and the number of trials that we'd actually had to get it work. So we all got to letter R and to 16 before we got it right. And then we called it the R16. And I got back on the plane to China, met Lynn, goes back into the things, and we were trying to work out why these machines were failing. And what we found out was that I said, well, who makes this component? Mr. Cheng makes this component. Okay, and then who makes this component? Mr. Cheng also makes this component. And this guy that's sitting behind Mr. Cheng eating his food, what does he do? He makes that component too. And that guy that's asleep in the back of the warehouse, what's his name? He's Mr. Cheng as well. So all the quality control was the same guy signing it off.
Oh, wow.
But they used to work this system over there where they used to employ 5 people to do one job, and they would all share the salary. And so you'd have one guy sleeping, one guy eating, one guy washing, one guy producing, one guy checking. And so the first Mr. Cheng might be brilliant, the fourth one might be absolutely shit. So we could never get really good quality control. That was the thing behind it. So I sat there at this manufacturer and I went, okay, we need to really tighten up on this quality control, because I was losing my profit on the machines that we were making.
So when you said it's 40 grand, was that just the initial like trial
That was the
process?
sales one, yeah.
How much were the? How much
Well, I'll tell you the story,
actually-
because once eventually, then when we actually got it kind of down, I can kind of give you the better figures. Because
Yeah.
do you know what? I probably lost everything that I made in the first year in trying to get everything right. And I said to them, okay, how much to buy the company? And they thought I was joking. And I said, no, I want to buy you. Then I can control everything. And they said, you can't buy us because it's Chinese owned. You have to have a Chinese person that majority owns the company. You can have it within a foreign investment. So I turned to Lynn and went,
Fancy owning this?
she fancied being managing director, and she said, okay. And she owned 51%, I owned 49%. We sacked everybody. We made everybody apply for their job again. We made them work an 11-hour shift with a 1-hour break. We made them work 6 days a week, and we gave them a Sunday off, which was just unheard of. And we got ISO 9001 standard. We're one of the first ever UK companies to put ISO 9001 in China. And literally overnight, our productivity went through the roof. Our quality control was fantastic. And it was very quick. It was very, very quick. We were getting our first machines, I think, within about 4 months in order. So that was kind of working. They also had a contract for another company doing OEM product along the same lines as ours. So we could concentrate on still keeping the quality better for those as well, which then obviously made them, they ordered more from us. And then we were actually then expanding our product range. And we came back to the UK. I thought, right, now I need to do this as a proper business. So the margins were really high. I mean, I don't know if I should really say, because I've sold the business now, but it was really good. I mean, we used to do everything. We used to do finance for the companies that were buying them. We did 0% finance for people. We did all their training for them. We did a service and maintenance package. I mean, up to one that was like a gold level, that if their machine went wrong, we'd be on site within 24 hours with a brand new machine for them. They obviously had to pay for that service. But we had stories of people. I think the machine at the time, I think we got it down to about 22,000 retail. But we had stories of people buying a machine, booking on to the next training course with, say, 3 or 4 of their staff. And not just tattoo studios, aesthetics clinics as well, for hair removal, for mole removal, varicose veins, that did everything. We had stories that people were coming on the course and were begging for us to pass the course because they paid for the machine in pre-bookings already. And it just got crazy. And we only used to do one show a year, which was the health and beauty show at Excel in London. And I remember our first ever show was a 2 metre by 1 metre stand. you know, with like this little pop-up banner at the back. And by the 6th year, we had a stand that was 150 grand to build. You know, we just rock up. It had all been built for us, all of our machines.
When actually was this?
This is for about 15 years ago now. So yeah, sort of 2000s, 2005-ish. And it was great, you know, and we got bought out. You know, I got someone said, look, I can't keep seeing you coming closer and closer and closer every year to the stand. And when we used to get people queuing up, because we used to do VAT free on the show day.
Okay.
And so what I used to do to get a ticket to go to that show was quite a thing to get to it. So what I used to do is all of my customers that were salons that were using the machine, I used to send an email out saying who wants to work the show. So they'd all want to work the show because they get a free ticket and they can go round as well.
Yeah.
And then what I'd have 25 people on that stand that were product ambassadors for me saying, actually, I use this in my salon. And so when they're talking to an owner, they're like, oh, you don't work for Premiere? They're like, no, I work for my own salon, but this is the machine that we use. So for them, it was a no-brainer.
It's clever.
It was
mad.
really, really clever.
Yeah.
And then all that used to happen was they want to meet me as the MD, and I'd be at the back, and they would say, Glenn, this guy here wants to make a purchase, and they'd basically join a queue, and I would just literally take a deposit, and I was literally there with a PDQ machine. And I remember the guy that bought us out, he was a little Israeli guy, and he kept on going over and just was shaking his head like this, because this PDQ machine was just flying out orders all the time. But that was the key, you know, it was getting buy-in and sensible collaboration from people that believed in the product. Yeah, of course, we fucked up a lot. You know, we didn't always have a great batch of runs, but we'd always fix it. That was the thing. And then what we used to do with the ones that we'd fixed in the UK, we then sell them on as return machines.
Refurbed, yeah.
Exactly.
How many did you sell during
A lot.
your reign?
Well, I'll tell you the story. Before I sold the company, just as I sold it, we went from 0 to £1 million turnover in 9 months. We were in 22 countries in the world. And I talk about distribution being a real big part of that. That was definitely Coca-Cola's involvement of my knowledge of how they distribute that helped take it from a national and European level, how I then took that to on the global platform for sure. And we would turn over 35 million.
Wow. So did she leave as well?
So when we actually sold, it was quite funny because the factory wasn't in the deal. So I was like, "Crap, we're still earning out of this."
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so we actually did a deal with the owners that bought us, and they have their own manufacturing facility. They're an American company, but they're Israeli owned, which probably in this day and age would probably be quite controversial, I guess.
Yeah.
But they didn't want the factory. What they actually wanted was the rights and all the trademarks for making the machine smaller, which I managed to get. So we owned all the copyright for all of that, and that was on a worldwide basis as well. And they just couldn't understand how we made the machine so small. And I always say we used a bit of the London Underground to make it cold, but kind of is the truth, but isn't. And they bought us, and about 9 months later, they said, "Look, it actually would make sense for us to have a manufacturing facility in China. Would you sell your share?" And I went and spoke to Lynn, and what she had done in China, which was really quite good. I mean, to see her and her family succeed for what we had done. She was
just a guide.
She was just literally straight out of university.
Yeah.
She was married. She was expecting a child. I mean, like imminently as well. And now, you know, to see her, and you know, she's living in a lovely house and everything else, but also to see the factory. I remember I hadn't been for about 4 or 5 months, and I had to go back to Beijing. And I remember the driver would drive me into the factory gates, and there'd be this queue of people outside the factory. And I said, "What's that?" And that's people that want to work for you. They'd all they knew that we'd done something so different. So we used to do away days. So we used to take them all the staff away, and on a Sunday, on their Sunday off, and we'd have a family day, and we'd take them somewhere or to a park, and we'd have food and do this sort of stuff. And in the end, about the third time I went back, Lynn had set up a creche So the workers could get to work,
Bring their kids.
drop the kids off to the creche, then to work, pick the kids up and then go.
Yeah.
And so we were really investing in, I think I've always done that, is tried to find a way of creating a tribe of people that if you do that, you still have to shout, because it's quite a void to shout out to, but you're shouting for the right reason.
So how long did it take you to sort of have the business from the beginning to the actual exit?
14 years.
Wow.
It was a long time. And in that time, I was literally doing every single hat. So I was doing all the teaching. I was going around the world lecturing on laser removal techniques. I got a PhD in cosmetic laser systems. So I was traveling around doing a great deal of stuff.
How many staff did you have in the end?
100 in the UK. And then we used to then do everything through main distribution centres. So we had one guy in Azerbaijan that we would always do it locally. So he would be like the central hub for Asia. So he did Dubai and places like that. So we would provide training and services to each of those hub stations. And then we'd rebrand them as well. We used to have products in North America that because of legislation, we wouldn't allow to have them anywhere else in the world. So we used to do white label products for there as well. So yeah, we used to get involved with everything. Teeth whitening. Do you remember the old teeth whitening days where everyone having their teeth whitening?
Yeah.
I made a fortune in teeth whitening lasers or the LED machines. I think it was something like 60 days. We went from concept to actually pushing them out and selling them. We had a whole line just doing teeth whitening machines.
So you then switched from the tattoo laser
Yeah,
removal.
we used to do everything. We did cryo machines. So
that was just the first machine, and then everything else.
Yeah, it went on from there. So we had an ultrasonic cavitation that removed fat. We had specific machines for hair removal.
And look, your machine's still being used.
Companies.
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah, Luke.
Hub machine
Yeah.
companies.
So
Element.
Yeah.
But they're it's crazy competitive now.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably was a little bit competitive then, but now it's like everyone wants to sell machines. They come, we want to sell machines. I'm like, yeah, but if you start selling machines, you don't understand. Like, you don't just sell the machines. You're then like, if someone has a problem, they got to come to you. Who's going to fix the machine? How quickly are you going to fix the machine?
That was the thing.
It's like it's way more than just selling you a
yeah,
machine, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was the thing. I think there was the naivety of me was like, oh great, I've designed this machine and I'm going to go and remove tattoos. That was all I was thinking, and then I don't know why I hadn't thought, well, why don't I just sell the machines? But there becomes a lot of responsibility, a lot. I mean, we were getting in the point that, we had a customer services team that would be having to do legislation for licenses for London. Like, I remember London Borough of Redbridge being quite a hard one. Lambeth was quite a hard one. Westminster was quite a hard one. So in the end, they didn't really understand the legislation realistically. So we were writing the legislation for them.
Yeah.
So, of course, then at that point, it'd be a case of where are you based? Well, I'm in Lambeth. Okay, did you know that we actually wrote the legislation for them to get your license? Oh, okay, well, then that was a done deal. They're going to buy from us. So we used to say it was like being a revolving door. You come in, you'd buy it, you'd finance it, you get taught it, you'd have a service level agreement on it. Everything was done through us. And
that's just on different machines as well.
Yeah, it kind of gone on.
Ever walked in a place and gone, that's my machine?
I have, yeah, lots of times, yeah. It's really cool to see them. They're still there. And even now, the company that bought us out,
they're still running.
Massively still running. They've done an evolution of what the outer skin looks like for sure. But, if they took the lid off, I could say, okay, that's my machine. So,
Machines do a lot of things now as well, don't they?
They do, and there's some of the technology that we were using. So we were using ND-YAG laser for tattoo removal, and at the time there was a big thing called Pico lasers coming out. So Pico was designed by a Japanese company, and we bought the license from them. So it was like how we develop machines that that are kind of ahead of the game. We're looking at ultrasonic sound waves for moving fat removal and stuff like that. So it's incredible. And even now, I would be really interested to see not what's on the market now, but what's the next generation of those machines.
How big it is?
Something to do with AI.
Yeah,
they're probably this big now.
There'll be AI somewhere in there. But yeah, it was a great journey, and it was kind of, I guess,
15 years from zero to
from zero to hero.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really. I sold out, and
how much did you sell for? Can you disclose that?
The company was doing 35 million at the time. So yeah, we did okay.
Turnover.
Yeah, turnover. We did okay.
And then the multiplier.
We did okay. We did okay. I mean, it kind of, at the time I was So what was I, 45, just turned 40. I was almost financially retired, I guess.
So when you get that payday, how did it feel?
Do you know what? It was funny because my mum and dad are very very humble people. You know, they're not from my world, as they say. They find it quite difficult, I think, sometimes. And my dad said, I remember my dad said, "Son, do you really want to sell?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, Dad, that's the dream, isn't it?" He went, "Yeah, but what can you do?" And I went, "I don't know, buy a Ferrari." And he went, "And then what?" He went, "Well, sit on the beach." And I said, "Then what?" I said, "We'll probably get married again." And he went, "And then what?" And I was like, "Dad, stop with it. Stop with the then what's, you know?" But he was right. You know, I did all that and I got bored and I had to come back into business because I just needed something else to do. There was that drive. I've always had that more drive, that want, you know, and I always had until my breakdown, I guess. We'll come on to that for sure. Consumption was a real problem for me. I always wanted more, you know. That feeling of right now what, you know, when I was wealthy. I was wealthy for sure, but it sort of becomes quite numb. You know, I remember I bought my first Rolex and I remember coming out and I'd been waiting for it for a while. And it was just a GMT. And I remember coming out the jewelers, had to wait 6 months for it, and I got it, and I came out and I went, "Now what?" It was just literally, it was like a false, you know, and then going to the Maldives and going to the really nice places and going, "Well, now what?" You know, bought a Bentley, and well, now what? You know, bought a Ferrari, and then now what? It was always that now what thing. I used to enjoy it for sure, but it was more, there was always something else, and I didn't know what that something else was. Was it? And I always thought it was more, and it definitely wasn't more. More wasn't the key to the happiness, I guess, of what I was finding. And then so, you know, I said, John, I had this guy, this mentor, and he said to me, "You're never going to make any real money." And, you know, when I've just done that, you kind of go, "What?"
So for context, he's a billionaire, right?
He is a multi-billionaire. Yeah, he sold a proportion of his company for $3 billion, and the most unassuming guy you'll ever meet. He travels normal coach class on planes, and he has 3 properties in different locations. But some of the lessons that he taught me were really quite valuable and things that I would probably never have even thought about. You know, I thought, "Oh, you must have your own private plane, you know." He says, "Glenn, it's called a jet." I'm like, "Okay, do you have a jet?" And he went, "I used to," but he said, "They're just more aggravation than worth." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Have you got a boat?" And he went, "Glenn, it's called a yacht." You know, there's me, and I'm like, "Okay, well, what did you have a yacht?" He said, "They used to have a couple of them." He said, "But then they become a problem as well." And I said, "So what is the thing?" And I remember the thing that used to fascinate me was that if he bought something, I could buy a pair of shoes. He'd buy 3 pairs, and he'd get one for the house he's living in at the moment, and he'd get the same pair of shoes sent to the other 2 houses.
Brilliant.
So when he travels, he just travels with his phone and his passport, because he has exactly the same amount of clothes and everything.
It's ease.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's that ease of travel, that flow. And I think if you actually look at some of the restrictions that we have as individuals, we're always we're butting our heads, aren't we? You know, we go. Let's say we go away. Oh, we've got to wait for our bag, or if he could just walk through, wouldn't it be great? You know, and that's what he does, and because his mind's so ahead of thinking about other things. And he said, "Glenn, you'll never make any money by being in your business." I was like, "Okay." And then I started buying businesses, and that was kind of my journey into acquisitions. And I said, "Well, what do I buy?" He says, "What do you like?" I went, "I like coffee." He went, "Well, buy a coffee shop." So I bought my first coffee shop, independent coffee shop, distressed, run down, owners wanted out. I bought that, and then bought 23 more. And I sold.
Not enough.
Yeah, well, it was more of a journey. It was, I wanted to see what we could do, and I always had this concept of business. I think sometimes people complicate business, and for me, it's actually trying to make it as simple and straightforward as possible. And I think that I always kind of had this weird vision that I thought I could create this like Uber business that would just be able to this is your business, if you like, and then it's like a monster truck. You just put a different skin over the top. And so you could put a different brand over the top. As long as you replicate that, then it doesn't matter what that business is. And so that's what I try to do with coffee shops. We try to streamline everything to be a standard operating procedure, if you like, but then we call it, Funky House Coffee or something, or whatever it might be called. And then you're just changing it up by what the brand dictates it needs it to be. I mean, because I think the problem was I always used to see the changing high street. And I used to wonder what would happen to those businesses. So, you'd have a business, it would be in a place for 5 years, and then it would go and it would turn into another different type of shop. And I thought, well, that's a lot of effort. There's a lot of money. Why don't I just be that business in that building, and every 5 years, I just do something different, but it's the same thing inside. And that was kind of this theory that I had, and I called it business in a box. And so I tried to see if it would work as a bit of a fun project, I guess. And we were buying at 0.8 profit on the businesses, and we were selling them at 8 times profit on EBITDA to private equity. So we would group the companies together, being bought out by someone that has way more coffee shops than I did. And we did that with the first one. We did it with coffee shops. And then clearly I did it with my next favourite subject, which is hair salons. And I bought a hairdresser's, and that was a bit more strategic. I knew who I wanted to buy me out. And
before you bought your first one?
Before I bought my first one, I thought, well, this is going to be a little bit more strategic.
This is something that these guys are going to like.
Yeah, I could see they were expanding and they were moving. They were trying to get a lot of land grab. Some of the areas that we were trying to get locations to do new ones as well, because we always want to do a new one. We were coming up against them. So I thought, okay, so it's now a case of let's buy the distressed ones, put it into that business in a box theory, keep the brand, tighten it up, and then go from there. And the thing that really made the hairdressers the key was that we bought a wholesaler. And so I could now really keep my margins really nice and tight, because there was like Sally's and places like that do all this wholesale stuff. We were selling internally at 5%, plus 5%. So they were buying stock in way cheaper than anywhere else they could do it, which means that we could then actually offer and still have quite good profit margins in the hairdressers. Yeah. Plus we were then selling to our competitor that was also buying the stuff, because we were quite sharp on it. And in the end, what made he actually came to us and said, stop. Can you stop doing this, because I can't keep up? What do you want? And it was literally, we kind of forced him into buying. And I knew he wanted the wholesaler. And we sold, and that was that one.
Were you doing that was after the coffee shops?
Yeah, I think I kind of come into the end of the coffee shops. I think we were getting involved with PE, were getting involved at the time. We were having conversations about, we had one buyer who wanted to take 12 or 13 and someone else do another one. I said, no, I just want it clean with one person.
Whole thing, yeah.
Just buy the whole lot. It's a lot easier. And then I think we'd had one or two. I think we'd scouted out the first for sure. And at the same time, I set up a tattoo studio.
I was waiting for this.
Yeah, here we go. Here's the tattoo studio.
Waiting for the tattoos to come through the tattoos.
So I set up and that was a real ego thing. I just really wanted to have the world's coolest tattoo studio. That's all I ever wanted. And I remember seeing, I live in Chelmsford in Essex, and there's a main high street coming through it, and there are no tattoo studios on the main high street. So I went and had a chat with the council and said, why not? He says, there will never be any tattoo studios right on the high street in Chelmsford. I will not allow the license. I said, okay, fine. Appreciate your time. So I went to every single business that had a building on the shop front and said, what's your lease look like? Can I get you out? And sort of try and do the deal. And anyway, literally, my ex-wife, or my wife at the time, saw an advert in, I can't remember the name of the newspaper, and it was for a building, and it was for the basement of this building right on the high street that was for rent. And I think she saw it on a Friday, and above it was a gaming arcade, and then there were a residential above that. 10 o'clock Saturday morning, I'm banging on the door at the gaming arcade, and I said, "Hey, I've got an appointment to come and see downstairs." I didn't, and they went, "Oh, well, there's no one here yet." And I went, "Oh, okay," and I went, "Oh, that's a real shame." I said, "Look, is there any way you can just show me downstairs?" And she said, "Yeah, I've got the keys." So of course, went down, and when they say basement, it was like someone had died down there. It was literally blood running off the wall. No, it was rats, and it was just awful. It was just awful.
Put that up for rent.
I was like,
yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it. It was like one staircase in, one staircase out. And I thought, I'll take it. Because we were right on the high street, but we were down below, you know? And we did the deal. And I remember I paid $6,000 a year of rent for this place. It was 2,000 square foot, which was cheap. I'm right on the high street. I mean, clearly there's no windows, and it stank a bit. And so we gutted it. We completely gutted it. We dug down, put new flooring in, put new ceiling in. And then
that's quite big then, 2,000 square foot.
Yeah, it was big, but it was very, very long. It was not many usable.
Quite narrow.
Yeah, not very many usable rooms. It was always a room off a room. So there was a lot of stuff that we couldn't do with it and stuff. Anyway, we said it would take us 3 months. We thought it was going to take about 30 grand to build it out. It was double over budget. It was double over time. We had to put in a special fire suppressant system. We had to double skin because there were residential above it.
You know how to make it cool down there though as well.
It was always cool. You know what? And in the summertime and the winter, the ambient temperature was always the same. We never had a problem with it. And the great thing was you'd come down this great big long flight of stairs and you'd turn right and it just opened up and everyone would just go, wow, it's so cool down here. And then we started the first tattoo studio. Business in a box principle again. Same marketing. It was our first brand. And we did very, very well. We had some great artists coming through there. We did some great projects. I'm a big lover of art. I like modern art, if you like. So J.J. Adams and people like that. And we had him come down. We held we had his winter collection being held in the gallery. We tattooed him. We then went up to Manchester, up to the Gotham Hotel. If you've never been, go, because it's cool as hell, that hotel. And we were you know what? We actually got a license by Manchester Council that while people are going around this hotel at night, we did this competition. And JJ designed 3 very quick tattoos. And they all went into a hat, and he pulled the 3 winners. And the 3 winners got the original piece of artwork that he designed. And we were there, and we live tattooed it on them. Mm-hmm. And he signed it, and then we then signed it. And we were thinking, well, it's art. And so we were one of the first ever people to do tattooing live at an art exhibition in the world.
Wow.
And he then took that. We did that in Miami as well and all over the place. So
I was trying to get, I sorted it for there to be at my wedding in Cyprus, 2 tattooists like the whole day. Well, for like 4 or 5 hours, just doing, obviously you just do little ones.
Yeah.
Smash it out. But the hotel said no because of health and safety and all that.
Oh, we had numerous visits. We had to red rope it. We had to put a different flooring in. We had to have all the health and safety, and it was ridiculous. And the interesting thing was seeing people's reaction to being tattooed, because the upper class middle people, buying art. Oh, my daughter's got one of these things when she was on a gap year. And they wanted to see how it actually looked around. And they were like, well, maybe I should get one. And
it was sleeve.
Yeah, and it was amazing to see the crossover between
2 different worlds.
Yeah, but they're very, very close. And JJ and I actually did there's something on YouTube with JJ Adams and I talking about, is tattooing art? Is art tattooing? Is there a common ground to it? And we both felt that there was, for sure, to the point that, that woman that's got that butterfly that JJ did on her leg, is that an art piece? If we were to, when she's away and we kind of take the skin out and frame it, is that a JJ Adams 1 of 1? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of a weird conversation, but
that's that's your love, isn't it? That's like you say, that's probably a passion project.
It was. I mean, it got me into actually. Then I created an art gallery, and I owned an art gallery for a while as well. And at the time, after I sold the hairdressers, I sort of did nightclubs for 2 deals, and that went very wrong. I don't buy property. I'm very risk averse.
Are you done nightclubs.
I did nightclubs, yeah.
No good.
Well,
You
just
couldn't
at the
put
time.
the same processes in place that you had in your distribution business.
Yeah, I still think the thing is with nightclubs, private equity hate it because it's a lot of cash. Not so much now because there's tap, but you know, going back 8 years ago, there's still a lot of cash flowing around. And you know, if you want to more money launder somewhere, buy a nightclub. You know, because that guy that's ordered 10 bottles, he's actually only ordered 8, but he's got a video of him ordering 10, and there's an invoice for it. 8 go back, and that's the money laundering.
Yes.
You know, so I mean, it's standard practice, and I'm, you know, I used to take a bit of a risk now and again, but normally I'm pretty much straight and narrow. And I don't buy the.
Well, you wouldn't have needed to, you know.
No, but you do get. I mean, used to hear stories, and we kind of got one where someone put some pressure on us to say, "Look, we need to have a chat with this guy." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And I got out of it. I got out of that. And I used to have a partner of mine that used to buy the property. A lot of nightclubs, they're owned.
Oh, you have to own the building, right?
Own the building, and then whatever. So what we used to do is that he used to buy the building, I'd buy the business, and then he would lease back to me on a 25-year lease for the business itself. So it kind of worked. He got his buildings, and I got the nightclub. But they're so up and down, and also they kind of go, as you know, they kind of go in and out of fashion so quickly.
Yeah. Did you sell them then eventually?
Yeah, we sold out. I mean, I made a loss on both of those businesses. I bought and I sold them on fairly quickly.
Was that another passion project? Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy being the owner of a nightclub?
I think it's just an ego thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's just like, go my club, you know.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Glenn's club, where's great? You know, it's that ego thing.
It would be sick to have a sick club, isn't it?
It would be, you know, but, you know.
Yeah, when you're out, you do
unless
think,
I'm
who owns this place? So, I want to...
Unless I'm only Ayesha, you know, Ibiza, you know, just turn that over or whatever. You know, you're not going to get the same vibe in England for sure. And it's
Where
all
were they? Where were they?
in Essex, yeah.
Oh, they're in Essex.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And you kind of have that Essex vibe to it, which is cool, but it doesn't really work like that. And then so the tattoos thing grew. You know, we then started buying a lot of tattoo studios. We tried to buy the oldest tattoo studio in the UK. The deal didn't go through. I had people then come into me and say, "I got 6 tattoo studios." So we'd buy 6 at a time, and we go from there. And then so we're getting into like 2020 now, and I nearly built one in Malden. I built them all over the place. I had them literally all across the UK. They were all individually branded. We never had 2 the same. We love doing independently owned. There's some good tax breaks for doing that as well. But in terms of how we run it, it was still that business in a box theory that kind of was working really well.
This is what you follow.
It's interesting. Most people would like call them all the same, right?
Sure.
Like that's what most of the co I've got.
Yeah,
these
yeah.
and
I think they're owned individually then, wouldn't you, really, if you're a client?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the downside of doing that is that, and this is one of the things that massively turned me off, it's almost like a franchise at that point. So let's say I get a tattoo done in Manchester. I'm going to see some friends in Manchester. I get a tattoo done in Manchester and it's terrible. Where that then brings the whole brand down
Yeah.
from one tattoo artist in one location. And so it's very, very difficult because it's so subjective in terms of what people say good and what people don't say good. I mean, I see tattoos all day long and I think they're shit. I really do. Most of mine are shit. But, you know, but I do see someone, I go, God, that's absolutely amazing. But you might think, it's a bit off. You know, so it's so subjective.
Art.
Art is subjective. That's the whole point. Exactly is what it should be. And it's more of a living, breathing thing. So what is good and what is bad? I think it's very difficult. I mean, I used to do a lot of the conventions and you get like first place, you know, full black and grey sleeve. And I'd be like, that's terrible, mate. Or geometric or whatever. And I'd be like, why have you got that on you? Whatever it might be. It's just, I would never really understand it. But again, it's subjective.
Yeah.
So I said, look, the easiest way to do it is do what we did with Premier and kind of build it local, keep it local, provide it local, and then move out from there. And then all you do is once that local level gets to there, you find another one that then kind of touches that level there. So eventually they can go. And when we used to get it where people would come in and they come for a quote. And they go to the next shop and go and get another quote and get another shop. And all of my managers used to phone up and go, this guy's going to come in a minute. Little did they know that it was me that owned the whole shit, owned everything, you know. And we used to have the same, we'd have people come in and complain about a shop. And, you know, and they'd come around and they'd absolutely bad mouth to everyone. And we'd phone up and say, what are you doing that for? You know, you do realise it's the same company that owns everything. Oh, no, you know. So there was an element of that. But then lockdown happened. And I've been kind of working flat out, you know, for a long time. I'd set up an aesthetics clinic. I'd set up an art gallery. I had 48 businesses at one point. So I was fairly busy.
Wow, yeah, that's hectic.
It was hectic.
How many employees do you have like over those 48
Not many,
businesses?
because obviously tattoo artists
Lean.
are self-employed.
Yeah, okay.
So I would say less than 70.
It's more like operational stuff more than
Yeah,
anything,
but
right?
but when you're
The
trying
delivery is you can
to,
outsource.
sure.
but-
Again, guess what we tried to do? We tried to buy a supplier because we wanted to be a tattoo supplier as well, and that was very, very difficult to do. There were lots of legislations changing around 2020 in terms of pigmentation for the ink as well. There's certain pigments you can't have, whites and yellows and stuff like that. We were then kind of being bombarded with the pressure from EU because they were taking up those new standards, and then obviously Brexit hadn't kind of really happened at that point yet either, so we didn't know what was going on.
Limbo, yeah.
Yeah. And I was literally, I think I'd got divorced. I didn't really know who I was. I'd sort of lost my mum and dad. I was kind of questioning who I was and everything, you know. And I thought, why am I doing this? You know, why am I working so bloody hard? I've got no legacy to give it to do whatever. What for?
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. And, of course, shut down. Now, bearing in mind, we had 48 landlords. None of them gave us any respite. They all said, we want full rent. There's none at all. All of our tattoo studios, we has our hazardous waste to be taken away, which is needles and all of our yellow bags, called yellow bags. They went, yeah, we're still billing you. Well, but you're not taking them. Yeah, but you're under contract.
It's like a subscription.
Yeah. So we had that going out every single month. And we were doing, I think we would turn over just under 13 million for all the businesses. So it was fairly. A year, we were doing about 13. And we were cash rich. You know, I had money in the bank. I always ran the business on that. I never borrowed any money. And I'd always sort of bootstrapped everything myself. I set up a small consultancy firm as well. I was doing scalp tattooing with another partner of mine as well. Not me physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, just me owning the businesses. But I was doing a lot more consultancy. So I was almost helping startups and basically trying to give them all of my knowledge that I had learned over the time on how to scale a business, how to, you know, put sales in, business of box theory, the whole thing. And it was starting to pick up. And do you remember a thing called Clubhouse? Do you remember?
Yeah. Loads of people like we know met on there.
Yeah.
We weren't on it as such, were we? But loads of entrepreneurs and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I know, Simon. I mean, and all the people that you know, I was doing Clubhouses with them every night. And because it was just a great way for us still to connect, you know. I remember being in a room, I was on a panel, and Elon Musk came in, and we're like, it was crazy. But there were some very clever people doing Clubhouse, and we're doing Clubhouse, and then obviously I get to speak to people, and they would say, I've got this great idea as a business idea, what do you think? And I go, that's absolutely shit, don't do it, don't waste your money on it. So, and then in 2021 I won CEO of the Year, which was a massive complete surprise for the United Kingdom, and it was about, you know, business change management. That was kind of the good thing that we did. And it was a client that put us up for it. I didn't really know anything about it, but then the trajectory just went mental at that point. COVID then happened. I'm spending every single waking moment on Clubhouse, and, you know, just doesn't work. We then get restricted. And in the restriction of COVID, I bought 13 more tattoo studios because there were just people going, I'm out. I'm done. Unfortunately, again, I think at that time I felt very much drowning, you know, from a personal perspective. I kind of the cracks were starting to show. I was partying a lot, trying to hide that, you know, with some of the addictions that come with that.
Yeah.
And probably my head wasn't level as it has ever have been in terms of making decisions. And then COVID was coming, and we were on and off, and everyone else had a great lockdown because the weather was so great. Well, I was in studios redecorating them with people. You know, I was literally on the tools with these guys, helping them rebuild the studios, waiting to go for when the lockdown was happening. We got to like August, September time, so we were 9 months shut. and we were getting really tight on the money, like really, really tight on the money. I thought, this is bad. What we were doing, we were paying all the staff's Netflix accounts, all of their Xbox and PS accounts we were paying for as well.
Wow.
And we were sending them food parcels or little goodie bags and stuff like that once a month.
Just to keep them sweet.
Just to keep them sweet, because we knew when it went unlocked, we knew it was going to go mental. And there were a lot of people doing, tattooing in the back garden and all this illegal stuff. And I thought, I can't risk it. I really can't, because I was too big. If they'd seen me with one of the studios, kind of the shutter going up and down or the back door opening, it would have someone would have bubbled it and it would have been the whole lot would have gone. So we said no. We had tattoo artists becoming Ocado delivery drivers, and we were losing people left, right and centre. It was very uncertain what we were going to do. So we had the art gallery closed, we had the aesthetics clinic closed. I was still doing little bits and pieces with the consultancy for sure, getting people ready. But it wasn't enough, And so I went to the bank and said, I need to borrow some money. Now, debt in business is good. Long-term debt and you're paying that back shows a good, resilient business, good, robust business. So I borrowed 1.2 million.
Is this before the bounce back loans?
Yeah, this is just before, just the time bounce back was coming. I didn't really like the whole bounce back.
I thought it was only 50k anyway. Wasn't
Yeah, it was maximum 50k.
50 per one.
Yeah, but I could get 50 per one. That was the deal.
Yeah.
So, we would have been actually quite all right with it, really. But
super low interest in
it was super low, but I just didn't think it was going to work. I thought every crook in the country is going to come out and just absolutely cane, which is what they did.
They did,
Yeah.
Everyone did. I know someone that took a 50k bounce back, stuck it in crypto, made his 50k, paid it back, and still made 50k.
Yeah.
So people were making money out of it. I was like, no. The sort of, I guess the policeman's son was still coming out of me a little bit, And we borrowed 1.2. It was backed against my pension fund from when I'd made my money. And then I caught Omicron, which was one of the really bad viruses in October. And I was hospitalised for 10 days. I lost 14 kilos in 10 days. And of course, I'm a single guy. There's no one to kind of look after me. So it's like, right, okay, get out of the hospital bed, boom, back into your flat.
Oh, fucking hell.
And the girl that I was seeing at the time used to leave little food parcels on the doorstep for me and everything. And then it came to, do you remember we had Christmas and they shut us down?
Yeah, literally
Christmas
on
as well.
Eve or something.
And I was just like,
fuckers.
oh God. And at that point as well, so I just was recovering from the virus. I still had the breathing issues, what long COVID is called, I guess, in some ways. Reflecting back on, I'm done. I'm just so done now. Where's this going to go? And then the lockdown happened in the December. In the January, I got a letter from the bank saying we need to renegotiate the terms of the loan. And I said, why? And they said, well, because we've been locked down again. And basically they wanted to take an extra charge over my pension funds is what they wanted to do. Yeah, it was a tough time. I remember being in a post office in Brentwood, and some woman just gave me the wrong, I gave her the wrong money for a stamp, and I literally broke down in tears. They had to call an ambulance. They were thinking about sectioning me because I just completely lost the plot. I went home and I didn't leave the house for 62 days.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Just bedbound and just
could not get out of bed. I just fucked off relationships, just went into this downward spiral of nothingness. And it wasn't even substance or alcohol, it was all of it and then none of it and then everything of it and then nothing of it. And I had a mate of mine that was a gym instructor, he was a PT, and he said, come to the gym, because this is when we started to open up again. And I said, I can't, the anxiety, I can't leave the house. He said, yeah, you can, come on, we'll go for a walk in the park. And I remember getting dressed one morning. It was so out of character. I got up, my alarm went off, turned my alarm off, jumped out of bed, had a shave, had a shower, put my PT kit on. And I remember 2 days later, I'm still sat on the end of my bed waiting to go out the door. I hadn't eaten, hadn't done anything for 2 days. I literally just was fear-bound of going out. I thought this year I've got to go sort this out really. And I remember going out with Tim for a walk, and I'm wearing this great big hoodie with a hood over. I couldn't see anyone and couldn't talk to anybody, and it was just a horrible time, you know.
What was the anxiety about? What was the thoughts? Just
I think
thinking about
just everything. I just felt like I was in this massive washing machine. Like, you know, every single time that we would try to do something, another wave come and hit us. You know, it was just that relentless, and I just wanted it to stop. And I remember having this view, and I didn't know if it was a dream or a kind of a weird out of body experience or something, but I remember being like these rapids, and I was holding on to a root, and I remember looking up and seeing like a person, like there, but not really seeing the detail of it. And the next thing, the wave would come over, and away I go again. And there's the relevance to that later on. And then I started. A friend of mine said, "Go and have acupuncture." Mate, come on. I'm 6'2", I'm 105 kilos. I don't do acupuncture. You know, I need to sort this out myself. You know, ex-forces, mum and dad, quite strict upbringing, you know, had a very strict school upbringing. Then back into the city of London, strict upbringing as well, you know, very much business in a box, very rigid.
Regimented.
Very regimented, very sort of institutionalised. And, you know, people that can't get out of bed are the lazy fucks in life. You know, the people that anxiety, that doesn't exist. You know, it doesn't. It's not a
you
thing.
thought that for all those years, yeah.
And I went and had an acupuncture, and I remember thinking, "Oh, it's actually quite good, this." And then a mate of mine said, "Why don't you try meditation?" They just laughed. I was like, "Come on, really? We're going to burn some joss sticks as well?" He went, "Yeah, if you want." I said, "No, I'm not doing that." And I remember embarrassingly looking up YouTube how to meditate. You know, and I thought, okay, I'll sit there. Couldn't get this seated position right and everything. And I woke up after 10 minutes. And I sort of progressed. I kept on going. I tried to do it daily. And it was like 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute. Couldn't clear your head, all this sort of stuff. And it got to the point where I went, right, I'm done. I've got to get out of the UK. I need to get out of the situation that I'm in. And then we'd unlocked as well. And things were starting to go good in terms of, you know, 200 calls an hour were coming in because people had a load of money. They wanted to get tattooed now. You know, it was that whole crazy time. And I thought people were going to be lovely and nice to each other because they hadn't seen each other. Actually, everyone was arseholes to each other. And I thought, I've got to go. And I called a management meeting, and I walked in and I said, guys, it's the end of the road. We're done. We're calling it all in. And so I called my financial advisor into that meeting as well, and we decided to shut everything.
Wow.
Yeah. We did some damage limitation. We sold some of the businesses off. We folded a lot of the businesses, and I knew I was going to lose a lot of money. I knew that my pension fund was going to go, and I knew all of my assets were probably going to go as well in terms of the businesses as well.
It's mad because you bought more as well during it, thinking it was
I think it was going to do it the right way, you know.
It probably would have done if you'd kept at it, but obviously your sanity wasn't.
It's just done, man. We can't sort of tell you how tired, you know, that word tired, but there's really tired. I was done. I didn't know what to do. I knew I wasn't thinking clearly on decisions. I made a couple of bad decisions in terms of businesses. I wanted to do a motorbike storage business, you know, to store motorbikes for people that were those. But I found out actually it was a really bad business because most blokes hide the motorbikes from their wife in the garage anyway. So no one was going to use it. So it cost me about 40 grand. It didn't work. And it just was making bad decision after bad decision. I thought I need to have a break. And we sold everything off, and I had £800,000 debt after everything. And the bank said, okay, we'll take your pension. And so they made me insolvent.
Take your whole pension?
Took everything.
Wow.
Took the lot. Yeah, took the lot. Even down, I had 2 cars, and I had a classic Saab 999, classic Saab 99. And they were like, yeah, you can keep that. It was like worth 4 grand. You know? But they literally went through everything. So they took all the businesses they went pop. And then they came to me because I'd subscribed for everything else. And they then made me personally bankrupt. And so I was made bankrupt in April of 2021. And I was like, oh, shit, okay, now what do I do?
Did you feel free at that point?
My God, man, it was just like the best thing ever.
Did you feel better having that than when you sold your first business?
No fucking way, no. I have to be honest, no. No, it doesn't work like that. No. There's a nice thing to have a lot of money, you know, there really is, but it's what you do with it as well. And so I went, I'm out, and I Googled how to learn meditation. And I saw all these retreats with all these Americans that wanted to find themselves. I thought, I'm not going to smashing people up. It's just not my way, you know. I was still quite arrogant at that time. And I then found this thing called monastery, which was an international ordination program. I thought, what's that? We'll teach you to meditate. You can be in the jungle for 30 days in Thailand, in the north of Thailand, with some of the best meditation monks in the world. That's for me. Clicked on application, had an application, and I had to pay for a donation, and I had to pay for my flight, and I literally had nothing, okay? And so I thought, right, how do I do this? It was all about timing. So I sold the sub, and I literally paid. I managed to get a return ticket for a year. I thought I'll go for a month and then see kind of how it goes. I got a visa for a year, and I thought I'll just go and see what this is like for a month. I want to learn this meditation thing, because there was kind of something that was almost putting me back to do it, although I was shit at it. And so I landed in Bangkok. I got a flight to Chiang Mai, and I'm in Chiang Mai for 3 days, and I run out of money. And when I mean run out of money, I had zero money, like zero money. I thought, shit, I've done this wrong. So
Then Lynn appears.
do you know what? Lynn didn't appear. Should I tell you the honest thing that happened? I used to go down to the breakfast table and steal food off people's table.
Really?
Yeah. I used to walk the streets, and if people were having street food, I used to sit there and finish their street food. So there's me. I'm on the scraps of what the Thai people are eating, and it was like a real kind of. You really hit rock bottom, son. You know, you are now in another country. You've got no money. Your taxi for the monks isn't coming for 2 days. What do you do? And I used to walk around and just.
Had you already paid for the monks thing as well?
Yeah.
So that's already done. That's paid. Okay.
Everything was done, and I was just waiting for this taxi that I'd already been paid.
Survived for 2 days.
Yeah, in Thailand. And it was quite interesting. It puts a different perspective on things for sure. Taxi came. I get taken 6 hours right up into the jungles, right in the north of Thailand, thinking, you know, if this goes wrong and I've got to walk out of here, I'm done, because I have no idea where I am. And I get there, and then there's all the monks and their saffron robes and everything, and they kind of do like this orientation, and there's 11 of us, and I'm the only Westerner. So there's people from Singapore, there's some Thai people there and everything else that actually spoke fairly good English. And some of the training monks spoke English as well, but it's Thai. And there's me, and then there's the rest of Thai people. So I'm like, I can't peel like a massive giant, covered in tattoos. It's just the weirdest thing.
Anyone else covered in tattoos?
No.
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 I didn't think so.
No. So here's a T-shirt, here's a skirt, put that on, and we'll have a line tomorrow morning. We'll see you at 6 a.m. I'm like, where are we sleeping? And we had like these platforms, and we had a tent that was 6 foot by 6 foot. And a mattress.
You were hanging out at the end then, you're just over
just
6
about
foot.
well, kind of diagonaled it. And then and a fan and a sleeping bag and one box, a plastic box, and that was it. And they took your phone, took everything. And I thought, okay, this is real now. You know, this is it. And I remember waking up at 4:00, and we went for breakfast and not knowing what we're really doing, and we kind of shown what to do and how to wash and how to clean up. And then we did our first meditation session. Glenn falls asleep again, you know, get woken up by the monks. But then very quickly, after about a week, I got up to 40 minutes of meditation. And I was very lucky, because we just had a load of they're called super meditators. And these are monks that have been in the Dhammakaya, which is like the main monastery, if you like, in Bangkok. And they'd been there for 5 years on a rotation. And they are kept inside, like a monastery inside the monastery. They're not allowed out. and they meditate for 16 hours, constant, non-stop in one session. Boom. Then they break, go to sleep, wash, eat. 16 hours, boom. 16 hours, boom. I thought 16 hours meditation in one go, that's pretty epic. So these guys were phenomenal in teaching meditation and the techniques and how you do it and whatever else. And then we're moving. Oh, great, where we're going? We're going right up in the north to the Burma border, Myanmar border now, right up into the village of people. And we're going to a boys' school. And they take these boys from 4 to 17. Okay. I get in this van. And we pull up at a service station and I hear like music and stuff. And I got the anxiety because I can't get out. Because I'd been so cleansed by not seeing people or hearing people and learning meditation and learning about Buddhism and all this sort of stuff. I just thought, I can't go out there. It was just too much. So we then went on. And I remember being blown away by these little 5-year-old boys with their heads shaved and they're playing football, would you believe, you know? And they're Buddhist monks, and of course I walk in and they're all like, who's this guy? And they want to touch your skin and all this sort of stuff. And it was just, most of the time I think I spent crying my eyes out pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh, wow.
And then the 4th day that I was there, they said, right, you're having your head shaved. And I went, yeah, it already is. And they went, yeah, we're going to cut your eyebrows. And that was my hair clipping ceremony. And I had my hair clipping ceremony. And the main Dhammakaya, the main monk, everyone else had their family there to see their hair clipping ceremony because it's quite a special thing that happens, you know. They're being ordained as a monk. And I got the main monk's mother as my mum. So she's my Thai mum, and she's just an amazing woman. She's 87 years old, and she's there carefully cutting my eyebrows, and then the monk's then doing it. And then I then took my oath. I got my Thai name. And they take you out of the temple, and then you're robed in the saffron, and you become a monk. And that was it.
That's mad.
It was just an amazing experience. And at the end of the 30 days, I decided to stay for another 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, that time that you have on your own where you're thinking about and literally everything comes up.
You stay with the monks? Or you stay
Yeah. So when you're like what they call a lay person, when you're not a monk, so you're wearing not the non-robes, you can't eat with the monks, you can't pray with the monks, I don't sleep with the monks, but you don't sleep in the same area as them. You're very much kept separate. But then when you're ordained and you were
ordained,
monk,
and then you
I was ordained. And I had my English name my Thai name came on board. It was quite funny because my Thai name is Tani Apollo, and they used to say tiny. Monk Tiny. So I was known as Monk Tiny, which was just hilarious, And then we used to go out twice a week.
Speak English with them a lot.
Yeah, because my Thai's shit. I then learned Pali, which is the original old language, and some of the stuff that Buddha taught down into the scriptures written in Pali. And then I learned how to translate from Pali into English. But there's actually from Pali to Thai to English. So I was learning that a lot. And I was teaching people to meditate, and I was helping people as a monk.
Did you live there for free then as well? So you just live there because you're a monk. So they'll allow you.
Do they give you money? Money?
The monks?
You don't need money for anything though.
No, I didn't need anything.
You just need food.
Yeah, there was food there.
Food and water.
Well, no, and good food, And they were so sweet because you get all of the villagers come and they cook foods for the monk. So because they knew it was me, they used to make me hamburgers. Or they did make a little pizza once a week and stuff like that. But
Western food.
It's really Western food. But it was quite strange because, you kind of then get detached from that. You only eat twice a day. I only used to sleep 3 hours a night because I used to do meditation. And meditation is a funny thing. I now teach men meditation. Seeing someone that's never done meditation before, I can get anyone to meditate now. I love teaching it. But I kind of realised quite quickly onwards that I didn't want to be like they liked me because I was a Westerner and I was covered in tattoos. So
different.
Massively different. And there's actually another part to the story as well. So I kind of stayed there and I thought, where's this going to go? What's my purpose? What's my life purpose now? But do you remember I told you about the story about where I felt flooded and I kind of was reaching up?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who the person was? It was me.
Yeah.
I had a vision of me.
Oh, wow.
Putting yourself out
Yeah.
the water.
Yeah. And I thought, wow. And it just came, it came in a meditation.
Oh, wow.
So I had lots and lots of breakthroughs like that, lots and lots of things that, you think about your first girlfriend and, about...
So is that what happens when you meditate? Like, are you supposed to think about nothing when you meditate?
No, everyone thinks you are supposed to think about nothing, but your mind's this active, amazing process. It's not designed to keep still. It's how it's like a muscle. So unless you're working that muscle out, it's never going to do anything. It's just going to still be erratic. So you have to train it in a way that you can control it. It's another podcast for sure. It's another episode on the podcast, but in terms of meditation, and I got up to 6 hours non-stop. Boom. 6 hours, drop in, meditate, come out. Oh, that was 20 minutes. Oh, that's 6 hours gone. And then the thing is, after that meditation of 6 hours, you want more. You want to be in that state of, they call it a state of sabai. So sabai is very relaxed, almost the point of being asleep. And sati is the point of full consciousness, but you're nearly fully awake. So you want to be in the middle. So they want to be, everything is sabai. Everything you do as a monk is sabai. It's relaxed. It's slow. We sweep a path. We do it with sabai. We clean the shower. We do it with subai.
Oh, wow.
Everything you do. And most of the monks, you look around, they look like they're stoned because they're constantly
I was just thinking, is it like being high?
Yeah. I mean, and also
It's a natural high, though.
You get people, and the craving is the same. You'd want to be more and more relaxed, more deep into your meditation. And I realised I had my epiphany, which was actually, I'm not supposed to be here as a monk right now. That's not my calling right now. I think at the end of my life, it probably is. But right now, I needed to teach the men that were like me. So either regimented ex-forces that don't talk about emotions and feelings, that don't believe that there's a thing called anxiety, and there is. That I know I went to Thailand and I remember being interviewed and they said, what are you here for? What are you trying to seek? And I said, happiness. Well, it's bullshit. You're not here to be happy. And I found contentment. And I think if you can find contentment, then happiness gets blown out of the water. It's having to be that quiet contentment. That's the thing that I was always trying to find.
And consistently as well.
Consistently is true, and being resilient to it. And I think as men, we struggle massively with it. And I came back after 2 years and I thought, right, how do I speak to high net worth individual, chief executive, managing directors, men, and teach them my message, which is how to be resilient, how to steer the ship of a corporation, how to deal with their relationships with their partners as well as their staff, how to do that in the most congruent kind of way. And I thought, well, I'll just go back into business. That was really hard because I was still meditating 6 hours a day. I didn't really get the Western world anymore because I had this different kind of concept of it. And I remember when I came back in the April, and it was the July, and I got invited through a friend of mine to go to Goodwood Festival of Speed. And I love cars. And I was like, yeah, okay, that would be really quite good for me to go. And we were the guests of Rolls-Royce. And I remember sitting in the Cullinan thinking, oh, I'd love one of these. And I had to tell myself off because I thought, well, you're not about that anymore, Glenn, But you are, but you can still do that, but be that way. And I had to have a conversation with the monks and say, am I right? Is it allowed to be like? And they're like, yeah, sure, of course it's allowed to be like that. But just remember, there's no attachment. So if it comes to you and it goes to you, that's fine. Don't get it and hold on to it. That's the thing that they teach you, because everything is just transient. It just passes through.
You've had it all. Like you've lived it. You've lived fucking 10 different lives.
Probably more.
Yeah.
And I call it, funny enough, I heard Will Smith say the same thing a couple of weeks ago. And I said, I've been saying this for ages. He talks a thing about change happening when you're at rock bottom, but also change happens at cliff top. So when you've got nothing, that's the easiest way to have that step change, yeah? But also, when you're at the very top of the top, you kind of go off this precipice and you just expect things to happen because nothing fulfills you. So you've actually got to do the same step change. It's just equally as important at cliff top as it is at rock bottom. And I really prescribe to that. I
saw that video.
It's a great
on Instagram, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was really interesting that I used to call it something else, but it was interesting that he kind of had that thought process, and he maybe pinched it from someone else as well. But I always credit Will because I heard it from him. So, and it's the same. And when I speak to the CEOs, high net worth individuals, influencer type people about the same pressures, they have the same pressures as us. Exactly the same pressures. There's just a few more noughts or a few more countries or a few more people involved. And it's allowing them to give them the space that they can move and explore without the judgment. And I think that's what we get very, very concerned about, is the judgment of things.
So when you say as a monk you can't really get attached to stuff, like you're saying, obviously the Rolls Royce and whatever, do you now have goals, but they're different goals, more like spiritual goals?
Yes, I do. I mean, I still meditate every day. I think that I wouldn't be able to cope, if that's the right word, with Western life for sure. If I didn't do that, it kind of eases me back into a state of calm. Do I lose my temper? Do I shout, scream and kick off? Of course I do. Am I intolerant of people? Absolutely. But it's not as bad as it used to be. And it actually has an understanding of, okay, why am I feeling like that? What's that? What's the catalyst for that? My goals are, and funnily enough, I won CEO of the Year again in 2025. I've just won it again. And so that was, again, a complete shock. And it was a client of mine that we did one breakthrough session, and it just absolutely changed his business, and he made 400 grand that day, or just with that one change. And I didn't realize that he'd put me up for the award, and I won it again 2 months ago. So it's me about, is I feel very much about, I still always had that collaboration type feel all the way through my businesses of, that local environment and doing and helping people. But yeah, I think I have it with a bit more conviction this time. I don't think I'll stay for the rest of my life as a business person for sure. I think there'll be another time that I will probably feel like I've done enough, and I will then go off on my own spiritual journey again. I've been very lucky to be asked to join a royal spiritual trail in December back in Thailand. It's the King Rama V's birthday in December, and I would been asked to go back across to Thailand and to be ordained underneath the Buddha Vista tree where Buddha was enlightened in India. So I'm going to have my hair clipping ceremony with 15 other international monks, and I'll reordain again for that short period of time. But I get the royal robes, and I'm then going on a plane to India with the rest of them. Oh. And I'm doing all where Buddha was born, where he died, where he studied, and where he was ordained. And he was ordained underneath this tree called the Buddha Vista tree. And they reckon the next enlightened Buddha will be one that comes from the tree. So it's extremely special. It's never happened before to outside Thai people. So I'm one of 15 that is going on the 5th to the 25th of December, I think it is. So yeah.
Why you? Like, how come you got picked?
I think in some ways that they like the message that I'm still portraying and helping getting the monastery known a lot more, to get people that are, for men that go, do you know what, I want to check out for a bit. And I always help promote those, and I've always have done. But also, I guess I have a voice, and they would like me to talk about it a lot more.
It's probably quite unique. There's probably not that many people.
No, there's not that many people in the world that can do it. But they also want to help, You see it at all levels. You see, I mean, how many pop stars do we see going into rehab? Rehab does a thing, but it doesn't do what being a monk does. It doesn't actually ask you to, you know all the secrets are inside. You know the answers to everything because you've lived them, you've had those experiences. And I think what Buddhism does, and definitely meditation, allows you that time and that calm to process those things, so you're more engineered to deal with them the next time round. And that's what I love.
So what's next for you then?
What's next? So I've been back 2 years, and I said that I kind of decided that the easiest way was maybe to go back to something that I love doing, So I was a PT in the army, and so I decided to become a PTI, and but only for men, only for high net worth individuals, CEOs and executives, so we could talk about their business day, the relationships. And it's kind of like a Trojan horse. It was always a way to try and get them to talk about their business. And as actual fact, it's now got to a stage where I'm not a PT. I've actually kind of stopped PTing now.
Coach them on their business.
And I coach them on the business, yeah. And then the funny thing was, all of this was all going well, kind of was about to transition the back end of last year into coming from being a PT to a business coach and a bit of, I don't want to say life coach because it leads a weird connotation, but more of like a mentor coach. And then in the October of last year, I had a massive stroke. And so I was 3 days in hospital with a huge blood clot in the back of my head.
Oh, wow.
And I'm now on the road to recovery from a stroke, which you would never think for someone that's enlightened or, spiritual. Why? And we still don't know. We still don't know the reason why I had the stroke. I've had lots of MRIs and tests. But it just goes to show that it's probably 52 years of abusive body and everything else.
The stress and stuff that you've been under. And...
But, it was very quick. Within 9 days, I was back in the gym. I lost my balance. I lost some of my vision a little bit as well. My short-term memory is still fairly iffy sometimes. So I know you. I'll go, oh, hi. Can't remember your name, but it's there. I kind of remember it. And in that time, around when I came back, it was always about, one of the things I was very good as a PT was talking about recovery, not just, smashing plates all day long. As we get older, it's a little bit harder. It's about that long-term recovery. And I used to see the benefits of good recovery, good physical exercise, good nutrition, good sleep, good hydration, and good business. I would see that a lot. And so I tried to look for supplementations that would help me, and I couldn't find any. And so I teamed up with a really good nutritionist and said, look, can you help me create these formulas of where I think I want to go with this supplementation, but purely for recovery, not to enhance you. It's not supposed to knock you out. It's not supposed to, like a pre-workout, get you geared up. It's to do the other way. It's the recovery in your sleep process. And they said it'd be very difficult because the quality of ingredients aren't here in the UK yet. And so we made it a mission to find a place that we could manufacture in the UK, a place that we could distribute from the UK, and that was veteran-owned, me being an ex-veteran. And we went live on Monday. So recoverysupplement.store. We have 8 products that help in terms of gut health, joint health, heart health, sleep health, and then all the other bits and pieces that are around that. And then we then do stacks. So we kind of create more of a system. So if you are completely shattered, you need our recovery package. And so we then sell 3 supplements that brought together are the optimum for those type of people, only for men.
This would be light work for you, though, considering your past.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's had its challenges. We launched at 7 p.m. on 7th of the 7th, Monday, and I think within about 24 hours, Meta decided to block our ad account.
Ah.
We all know
Speak to Lulu, knows about that a lot.
So we're kind of going through the constraints of that and moving it forward. But yeah, we got a great guy on board who's my finance director. We've got Claire, who's our operations director, and she's the formulist. She's a nutritionist, has a fantastic career learning nutrition in New York, and more of a holistic perspective as well. Steve's keeping us on the straight and narrow with the financials and pushing through all of those bits and pieces, and somehow I'm steering the ship. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It seems to have gone great guns. We've been very, very lucky and blessed. It's been a long time because we were so insistent on the ingredients. And supply chain, getting them from outside of the UK, which we've managed to do. So,
Glenn, it's been
who knows?
It's been actually so fascinating talking to you.
Thank you, mate.
I thought we probably could have gone on for longer. You have, like I said, you've lived a mad life.
10 lives,
lived
crazy
20 lives. So.
I'm still here, still kicking.
Yeah.
So
a lot of our listeners are young entrepreneurs. What would be your leaving message to them?
Don't be a dick. That's the first thing. Just be nice. I know how hard it is for young entrepreneurs. I think sometimes everyone says it's easy being an entrepreneur now. And I think in some ways it's right, but I also think it has its challenges. And please, the only way to real long success is collaboration. You have to collaborate. You have to do things collaboratively, locally first, and then you can then take over the world.
Brilliant.
Love that. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Pleasure.
Oh, that's sick.